So, I wanted to talk about chronic depression because I feel a lot of the talk is aimed at people who are acutely depressed in the moment, which I've experienced as well. I'm sure many people watching this have, where you feel just very overwhelmed, beaten down, backed into a corner. You feel like there's no more light and it's all just going to get worse. There's no escape. You're just doomed and you're stressed out and you feel like, I can't take anymore. Like, I'm just not enjoying this. What is the point? I'm going to kill myself. Yeah. That's more acute depression in the moment where you're like, oh my God, I've got to do something about this. I can't possibly cope with another day. But what can also happen with depression is it just lasts for weeks or months or possibly even years of kind of a low grade, chronic dissatisfaction with your life, feeling unengaged, feeling numb, feeling like nothing really matters, and kind of just you try a few things, oh, that doesn't work, nothing works. I just kind of give up and disengage with life. And that's kind of what I've dealt with for a long time. I do get the occasional, like, oh my God, I'm fucking pissed off and my life's so shit and it's all been a fucking disaster. I'm going to kill myself. I have thoughts like that. But it's more of a case of, oh, just like a bit bored, just fed up, like everything feels the same, all feels repetitive, mundane. And on those days, it can feel like you've done everything there is to do in the world. You know that there's a lot of enjoyment out there somewhere, but it just feels very far away. You feel like, all right, I've seen all the animals in the animal kingdom. I've sat on beaches. I've seen my favourite bands. I've seen like all my favourite bands at this point. I've seen all the good films. All the films made nowadays generally suck. Like, what am I waiting for? And in those moments, I would say you have to kind of step away from your mind. You have to stop engaging because it's just not helpful. Really, I mean, I've had arguments with Ellen before at night over nothing really. Just, oh, you're just always there and I just need some space, but you're there. And I'm fed up of nagging you about not putting your clothes away and the house is a mess. All these little things that don't mean a lot. But when you're already aggravated by life, it can be like, oh my God, how many times do you have to say, just like, put it in the dishwasher, that kind of shit. But you can go to bed having maybe had an argument before and not really resolved it, and you wake up and you're like, that was fucking dumb, when it like, that was just the way I was feeling at the time. Joe Weller has always been one of my favourite content creators. Very fun, interesting, hilarious guy, but also open about depression. And I relate to him because I've done a lot of the stuff he's done. He talks about giving up alcohol. I don't drink, haven't really drank properly in like a decade or more. I don't do caffeine because it makes me feel all jittery and overstimulated. He's given that up. I don't watch porn. I've not looked at any porn for about 250 days or something. I've got like a counter, but it's at the point where I don't check and be like, oh, another day. I'm like, I just don't look at porn anymore because I feel it can be negative. Also, my sex drive's quite low, so like I don't have the inclination as much. But I've realised at points like it just fucks with your dopamine, and once you've sinned so much, it's like, well, normal sex can seem uninteresting if you're used to looking at, you know, gangbangs and shit. It's very unnatural to be able to see so many naked people so easily without trying. It's a little bit weird when you think about it. If you're just on your own, watching other people partake in something and you're just, I don't know, I think it trains your brain to treat sex like it's just about pleasure rather than intimacy and being close to a person that's significant in your life. But that's maybe a bit deep. Like, when you're first young, I mean, when I was like 14 and 15, where your hormones are raging, it's like, oh, just like, give me everything. But it gets to a point where like, that pleasure just response gets killed off. Same with food, same with anything done in excess. You know, if you're a drinker, you can become addicted to alcohol. Having two drinks is going to be like, oh, that's just nothing. I need to get absolutely shit-faced in order to enjoy alcohol now. So I think it's important if you're recognizing you've got a tolerance issue and like, oh, I need to like watch something a little bit out there in order to get some kind of buzz from it. It's like, well, there's a bit of a problem. So I don't have a problem with porn now. I don't think I had a massive problem. I wasn't watching anything that weird. But ultimately, that is a road many people go down. And on the internet, normal porn is still very in-your-face graphic and whatnot. I think the last time I saw a porn site, the amount of stuff that is tailored towards people wanting to bang their own mum and sister, I think that says a lot. Yeah? Even if that was a fantasy, that's weird. If it says stepsister, still pretty weird. But if it says, like, oh, your sister wants to fuck you in a tent. Oh, let me wank over that. Like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Unless you don't even have a sister, then I guess it's okay. But people need to be careful with what they put into their brains. But anyway, I guess that ties into my overarching point, which is depression can be influenced by the way you're living your life. And many of us now have forced our brains to be so lazy and so desperate for a little hit of dopamine that slowing down and just having a moment away from all of the noise, including much of it coming from your phone, you don't know what to do with yourself. You go to the toilet to have a shit for 5 minutes and you're like, better get the phone out. Just, Jesus Christ, we've got a problem here. I know some people go the extreme route and they ditch their phone and get some old like BlackBerry where you don't have internet or you can't look at social media. I think realistically that's quite difficult, but I think all of us need to have at least a day or an hour at a time where we're not on our phone all the time, just looking at Instagram, scrolling. I think TikTok, I've said this before, but I think TikTok is one of the most brain dead websites I've seen. Now, you can get content of all kinds on there. Some of it will be good, but a lot of it, and I feel like a lot of what the youth is growing to look up to is so fucking idiotic. The dances and all that bullshit, like, and it's just got like words appearing, like, I hate it. What is that cringe? Sucks. So dumb. So fucking dumb. But going back to depression, I think a lot of the time you've just got to be like, I'm having a really shit day. I know from experience that overthinking in this moment will only lead me deeper into the dark pit of despair. I've just got to accept today is not a good day. That can be very hard because I always want to fix stuff. And if I am not fixing something, my brain almost doesn't know what to do. But it was like I was saying earlier, you can argue with somebody, your partner, whoever, and then you're really just tired. You wake up the next day, you're like, oh, that wasn't necessary. Like, it was just the way I was feeling. I mentioned Joe Weller. The point of mentioning Joe Weller, beyond the similarities between me and myself, at least in my mind, is he talks about how, because he's made it well, what am I trying to say? He's done well for himself on the internet. He's made it pretty big on YouTube. He's been lucky enough to stop filming for months at a time and can still just afford to live traveling and doing all that stuff. And if you look at his Instagram, you might think this guy is living the dream. And that's what I was thinking. Recently, he was uploading pictures while on holiday in the Philippines or Thailand, any of those exotic places. You're just going to work. You're like, fuck, his life looks so much more exciting. But because he deals with depression, which a lot of people do by nature, regardless of what's happening in your life, he just talks about, and it makes so much sense to me, the outer is completely controlled by the inner. Like, sometimes Ellen can send me a funny video. If I'm in a good mood, I think, that's fucking hilarious. If I'm in a shit mood and she sends me a video of a cat doing something, like, it's not even fucking funny. Like, this is just a stupid video. So it's just interesting to me how your mind can decipher whether an experience is good or negative. One of my favourite bands, and I got to meet the singer, which was a big deal for me because I love their music and I have done for a long time, AJ, the singer from The Dangerous Summer. Their new album, Gravity, came out earlier this year, and when I first listened to it, I think I must have been in a really shit mood because I was like, all the singles they'd already put out I knew were great, but I was hearing the new stuff and it just felt a bit like, it was just a bit repetitive and none of it standing out. And after a few days of listening to it, I'm like, all of these songs are fucking amazing. Like, the fact a lot of people don't know this band, again, I want to repeat, The Dangerous Summer, check them out. Like, it's a tragedy that this band isn't bigger than they are. And they were really good live, by the way. Like, I'd heard, and I thought maybe the reason they're not so big, because they've been going so long and they've never, done massive arenas and that kind of stuff. I thought maybe they're a bit shit live, and I'd read online that they get shit-faced, drunk and on drugs, and they just don't perform well. But all I can say is they performed very well on the night, and I would love to see them again. The first opportunity I get, if they come to the UK again, I will definitely see them again. But that's it, really. Sometimes life is about enjoying the little things rather than looking for these far-off, exciting opportunities in the future. Oh, I've booked a holiday for 8 months' time. I'll just hang on till then. The holiday will be good, maybe, but maybe not, because if you're again in that state of mind, you might get there and still be like, I still don't feel right. You've got to look for stuff every day and every week. What do I want to do? What is my heart calling out to do right now? And sometimes I think we can get just so confused by all of the noise that we're like, I don't know, I can't even think straight. And sometimes I genuinely believe we need to kill off all stimulation. You need to just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, letting your mind go blank, no music, nothing. And then a bit of creativity might come back, a bit of desire might come back, and you think, actually, I don't want to lay here anymore. I feel inspired to get up. I want to play that game I've been meaning to play. I'm finally in the mood to play it. And often it's sort of that just fight within, knowing, oh, I've got all these games I've bought and all these things that at one point I had the desire to do. Why can't I get myself to do anything? Why do I not care about anything? But the answer is, fuck knows. You've just got to ride it out until you feel like doing it. Because I know for me, I can play a game sometimes. I'm like, I could play this for 10 hours. I'm having such a good time. And then other time I pick it up a few days later. I'm like, oh, I want to be enjoying this game like I was the other day. But again, everything just feels grey today. Nothing feels good. And even the most beautiful day, I could be in the most amazing setting in the world where there's like the ocean and all these beautiful plants and animals. I could still just see it all as grey because of how I feel inside. And when you're in that state of mind, just remember that. Don't take it out on other people. It's nobody's fault. The world can be difficult and it's expected. It's not your fault. Don't feel guilty for feeling shit. Don't beat on yourself when you already feel low. Just be like, I'm sad that I feel numb and I don't really feel anything right now, and I'm just like going along with emotions. But I remember this has happened to me many times before. I wish it wouldn't keep coming back, but the fact is, today's just not my day. The world's not out to get to me, and sometimes it can feel like all these bad things are happening. It feels like God, and I don't really believe in God, but God is up there just like poking you, trying to get you to fucking jump off a cliff. But there's no evidence of that. We all came from stardust, mate. And again, just remember the wonders of the world we can forget because there's people tearing each other apart, wars going on, people dying, innocent people, horrible stuff happening all the time. But really, it's a miracle we're here. It's a miracle when you look at nature, when you look at animals and different life forms, and you're like, how are we all here? The fact that you could have a lung problem, one of your lungs fucking collapses, and you got a backup. Like, there's some kind of design to this, so I get why some people believe in God, but I think the real thing is, we don't know. Sometimes, oh, science is explaining the northern lights and the solar eclipse, but sometimes it's like, this is just fucking crazy that this shit happens. And I feel, again, with TikTok, Instagram, with these kinds of videos that show all these amazing things very quickly, it can numb our mind to seeing like, wow, this is actually impressive, because we're just like, yeah, I'm bored now. It's been 10 seconds. I've seen the northern lights. Let's move on. Let me know your thoughts. I'm sorry for anybody out there who is struggling right now. I'm no guru. I'm just being honest with you. I struggle a lot myself. I always have, and I probably always will to a degree. But sometimes you've got to, like I said before, step out of it, go, all right, I'm aware that I'm just making it worse by overthinking it and trying to figure it all out. There's nothing to figure out. Sometimes life's just a bit shit, and I feel a bit shit. But once I feel better, I'll feel engaged with life again. So I'm not going to make any abrupt decisions right now, because I've done that before. I've had jobs, I've been like, I feel so shit, I'm just going to quit the job. It's the job's fault. And then I'm like, oh, fuck, I've got no income. And now I still feel shit. So stop trying to look for external ways of changing your reality. Often, it's all inside here. Cheers for watching, guys.